Welcome to Pemmitic Sea Farms in Surrey, Maine. On our farm, we are farming oysters. Here in Maine, we have a long tradition of working on the waterfront with fisheries, ground fisheries and the lobster fishery. But now we also have aquaculture as part of our working waterfront. And aquaculture is farming in water. And what we're going to see today is one example of farming in the sea, the farming of oysters. Oysters are nutritious, healthy, and they are excellent at keeping our environment clean and healthy for other animals that live in the sea. The oyster farming starts by purchasing baby oysters known as seed from a hatchery. So there are different types of system for growing the babies between the nursery and being able to put them at sea. And this is one of those systems. It's called a bupsy. Bupsy means a bottle upwelling system, and over here is another type of system called a flupsy, which is a flowing upwelling system. So an upwelling system allows for the natural food in the water, which is tiny little plants called phytoplankton, to upwell, to flow up through the oysters so that they get as much food as they can possibly eat and grow as fast as they possibly can. In Maine, that's usually around early July or late June, and those babies go to sea and they grow in a farm site on the water. Here at Pemmitic Sea Farms, we actually have 4 farm sites. We have 2 in Union River Bay, we have 1 in Blue Hill Bay, and 1 in Narragansett Bay in Millbridge. All of those sites are slightly different. They have different temperature, different salinity, and they have different organisms that live in the same place as those oysters are growing. Today we're going to jump into the water and take a look at our farm. We'll take a look at some of the equipment that's needed to keep it in place in the sea, like moorings, mooring stones, mooring ropes and some chain. And we'll look at some of these cages that are used for keeping the oysters safe. We'll look at those in the water. After we put the oyster seed into the sea, it can take between 2 and 5 years for them to become harvest size. During that time, we still have lots of work to do. The oysters need to be cleaned, and we need to change their stocking density, which is the number of oysters that are close to each other. All of these things help to keep the oysters healthy. We also have biofouling, and biofouling is other animals that live in the sea with the oysters that grow on our oysters, but also grow on the gear that we use for farming. And to control biofouling, sometimes we use biological controls such as starfish that can help keep barnacles and mussels off of our gear and our oysters. And sometimes we just have to use good old-fashioned human labour. These are floating cages, and within the cages are bags which the oysters live in. So these oysters went to sea as babies from the nursery in July 2018. So they're just a little bit over 2 years old, and they're now harvest size. And when we harvest oysters, there are actually four sizes of them. There's petites, cocktails, standards and jumbos. And these guys are cocktails. So what we have here are three sizes. This one is a standard, this one is a cocktail, and this one is a petite. And jumbos would be anything bigger than 4 inches.
So this is a pontoon boat, obviously, and we built this as a work platform for sorting, for doing a lot of heavy lifting. Out at the farm here, we have some mooring stones that are about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. In order to set them, you need a way to pick them up. And so we built this floor to come up. Okay, so that would be removed. We use this winch right here. This is a 5,000 pound winch. It's just a Harbor Freight winch for ATV or pickup truck. So this unfurls. I have an on and off switch here. And then for picking cages up on the side, we have the swinging davit with a little 3,500 pound ATV winch. So we can pick our cages up. And it's a really good back saver. The 5,000 pound winch, remote control. We lower this down through this hole to pick up a mooring stone. The chain, we'll have the chain and the chain will hook to this, and that way we can raise and lower the mooring stone. There's enough flotation on this boat to float about 5,000 pounds or so, so we're well within limits. Then we just winch it back up. When we want to just pick up a cage, which only weighs sometimes 500 pounds, we use this davit. We switch the winches, and now this one does the same thing. And then we can swing that over here and drop it right here.
Oysters like to warm water, and their filtration rate, which is how fast they filter water into their bodies, is directly correlated to the temperature of the water that they live in. So in the summer, they filter a lot of water and they grow really fast. But in the winter, when the temperature gets down to around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when the oysters stop filtering, they stop feeding, and they stop respiring. That means they stop breathing oxygen, and they basically hibernate. So whenever the temperature is below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, they just hibernate. So in the winter, we just need to put them somewhere safe, so that they are safe from ice and they're safe from storms. And then in the spring, when the water temperature warms up, we just bring them back up again. Oysters are good for us, they're good for the environment, they're good for the planet. Oysters are a form of nutrition and food for a growing global population that is easy to grow and very nutritious. Oysters are low in fat, they're low in carbohydrates, but they're incredibly rich in proteins, and they're filled with important vitamins and minerals such as vitamins B12 and vitamin D, and minerals such as selenium, iron and zinc. Oysters are good for our environment as well. They are filter feeders, which means that they clean the water. Thank you for coming to our farm, and when you're out next and see oysters for sale, try some and see if you like it.